So, in today's lesson, we will continue, this time with the reduplications. You see, in ancient Greek, the perfect indicative active is built using reduplication, a distinctive prefix that indicates completed action with continuing results. And there are 4 primary methods for constructing this prefix, based on, of course, the initial sound of the verb stem. But unlike the augment, it remains in all moods. It means indicative, subjunctive, optative, and imperative. A very rare imperative form, the perfect imperative. So, much like in the previous lesson, here is a table that looks rather complicated, but don't worry, we will go through this step by step. Starting on the left, we have the stem start, that means the verb stem. Then we have the rule type, followed by the prefix pattern, and lastly, an example for illustration. Beginning with a single consonant, except rota. So here we have simply a standard reduplication. That means we are doubling the first consonant and adding epsilon. For example, Lyo becomes Le Luca, with the lambda being the first consonant and an epsilon added. Thus, we are getting here a Le as the prefix. Next, we have aspirates. Those are the sounds P, T, and K. Again, they have a H sound right after the initial T, P, and K. Here, remember the Cressman's law, which says there can't be 2 consecutive syllables that have both an initial aspirate. Thus, the first of those 2 syllables loses its aspiration, which means P becomes P, T becomes T, and K becomes K. And then we are adding epsilon. For example, Theo becomes Te Thuka. And this is not irregular. It follows a phonotactical rule. Next, we have a vowel. Here, we have again a temporal augment. Again, that means we are lengthening the vowel. For example, alpha becomes eta, and so does epsilon. And omicron becomes omega. For example, Angelo becomes Engelka. Now, at the beginning, I said single consonant except rota. Now, with an initial rota, we have a syllabic augment. But here we have again the rota doubling. So, we have actually the epsilon at the beginning. Thus, the initial rota becomes R with a double rota. For example, Rupto becomes Eripa. Next, we have double consonants. Those are consonants that, while being written with a single letter, still have 2 sounds to them. That would be ts, x, and ps. So, they also have a syllabic augment. Here we have a prefix and the epsilon, but no doubling this time. For example, Zeteo becomes Etzeteka. As you can see, here the initial ts is not doubled. Now, for all the other double consonants, we also have a syllabic augment, and we have the prefix e. For example, stello, here st, being a double consonant, but written with 2 letters, becomes estalka. So, pretty similar to the previous one. And then we have the stop plus liquid cluster. Here again we have the standard reduplication. Remember, that is the very first one we had. That means we are doubling the first consonant and adding again the epsilon. For example, krappo becomes ge krappa, with the gamma being doubled and the epsilon attached. And lastly, a vowel plus consonant. Here we have the so-called Attic reduplication. This time it is not the first letter but the first 2 letters that are being repeated, with the second vowel being lengthened. For example, akuo becomes akekoa. Now, here alpha plus kappa are the ones that are being doubled. Now, the initial alpha is lengthened to eta. So we have the prefix, which consists out of the original alpha and kappa. But now the verb stem starts no longer with alpha, but with eta. That is the Attic reduplication. So, I hope that is everything. If I made any mistake or left something out, please let me know, and I will jump right into the books again and see what I can find. Understanding this, including the previous lesson, with the augments, gives us a very good base. And aside from the phonotactical rules, this part, the augments and reduplication, is, in my opinion, the most complex. So, mastering this makes acquiring Ancient Greek so much easier. And a lot, if not most, of the so-called irregular verbs that are being marked as irregular in so many textbooks suddenly become perfectly predictable and thus regular